All right, folks, hope you're doing well. Welcome to the latest edition of Notre Dame Daily, brought to you by FanArch. I'm Pete Mulroy, and we continue Pitt Week, and with ESPN's College Game Day in the house, number 10 Notre Dame, number 24 Pitt are going to meet Saturday in the Steel City for a monster game, one that is absolutely chock full of college football playoff implications. The two programs last met in 2023. Notre Dame all over the Panthers, 58-7 in front of the home crowd inside Notre Dame Stadium. This one's got a different feel to it. That win a couple years ago was the fourth straight for the Irish over the rival Panthers and was a victory that actually pushed Notre Dame's all-time record against Pitt to a whopping 50-21-1. Now, coming into Saturday, the Irish riding a 7-game win streak into Panthers, winners in their past 5. Again, the stakes are incredibly high as the postseason is concerned. Notre Dame, as we know, began the season 0-2, so they needed the strong stretch they're currently in the midst of. Pitt began 2-2, but have reeled off 5 straight since a loss to Louisville earlier in the season. It's a rivalry that dates back to 1909. Both programs know one another well. But this year's game packs a different kind of punch. Not to mention, it's the first time in about 20 years, I think more than 20 years actually, that College Game Day's taken it on the road to Pittsburgh with a litany in this rivalry of memorable games. A lot of people, including myself, are really looking forward to this one, and we got one of those late season matchups that you really look forward to come this part of the season. In November, going into the teeth of the winter, right around the corner, Thanksgiving, you got that fall feeling, the vibe, two rivals going at it. This is as big as it gets here, and you're feeling it on both sides, and there have been great contests between the two over the years. You have included Notre Dame's epic fourth quarter comeback in 2012. They went on to win that game in triple overtime, tying it from a 14-point deficit in the fourth frame, led by quarterback Everett Golson, kept the undefeated season alive. Notre Dame went on to play for a national title, ultimately losing, of course, to Alabama that season. Tony Dorsett ran all over Notre Dame in 1975, a 300-plus yard effort on the ground in a Pitt win. And then you had a 2008 game that had a little bit of everything, where Pitt beat Notre Dame in South Bend, 4-overtime thriller. And when I say it had a bit of everything, those of you that remember going back 17 years, there was a sprinkler malfunction in that game that actually delayed time during that first overtime. So it was one of those games that you certainly remember, I suppose more so if you're a Pitt fan, but anytime you go OT after OT after OT and then into the fourth overtime, you don't soon forget it. And again, given what's on the line in the 74th edition of this rivalry, most, again, including me, expect another memorable game. Pitt remains very much in the thick of the ACC race. Notre Dame needs to collect wins across its final 3 games to most definitely secure its place in the CFP for a second straight season. Those updated rankings will be out later tonight, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. It's not going to be easy. Nothing ever is in November, as we know. But the Irish are well aware by now that what the mission is and what needs to be done. Now it just comes down to execution, and it obviously should make for one heck of a great watch Saturday at noon Eastern time, of course, on ABC. And it is worth noting here that Notre Dame is opened, I mentioned this a bit yesterday, as an early 10.5-point favorite on the road this weekend, though anyone who follows the sport knows that means absolutely jack you know what. But coming off an explosive offensive performance in which they hung 49 on a talented Navy squad and handed them their second loss of the season, and had a majority of the starters, actually, because they were playing so well on both sides of the ball, pulled midway through the third quarter. The eye test was certainly there for a gold and blue team that really needs to pass that if you're into that sort of thing the next couple of weeks. Even with Pitt possessing an incredibly strong run defense, more on that in a minute, the Irish love, obviously, what they have behind center in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. You added an offensive line that continues to protect C.J. Carr, and you have an offense that looks to be very much in sync across the board. So it's fair that Notre Dame would be the favorite early in the week. The Irish passing game was well-balanced Saturday, and defensively, minus a couple of early missed tackles, the communication and execution were in lockstep with one another. If they're able to follow up that win over the Naval Academy with another steady performance this weekend, then exiting Acrisure Stadium with a W is very much on the table. Not going to be easy, but it'll very much be there if you continue to do the things that you did really in spots in that frustrating win over Boston College, but then collectively and consistently this past weekend against Navy. From a spread perspective, I think 10.5 is fair, though I wouldn't be shocked to see it dip a bit, perhaps, as the week moves along. But I think ultimately it'll stay in that 9.5, 10.5 range, somewhere there. 11, I don't know, but 10.5 I think is fair. I don't think that undermines the things Pitt has done to make Notre Dame a double-digit favorite on the road in a big rivalry game with two CFP top 25 teams, with all that's at stake. But I do think it was, a respectable and again fair line, at least to this point on a Tuesday in the week. From a matchup perspective, as I mentioned earlier, Mike Denbrock knows his offense, particularly the run game, will have a tall task in putting up big numbers against this Panthers run D. Third in the nation against the run. The Panthers can simply get after it, and that's a fact. But if you're looking for a way the Irish can still find success on the ground, look no further than two areas. The first one's obvious, what ND has in the backfield. That, of course, being Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. And second, there have been instances this season where the Pitt run stuffers were not at the top of their games. In a loss to a pretty lousy West Virginia team, September 13th, Pitt allowed the Mountaineers to rush for $174. In October, on the 11th, wins over Florida State, and then 2 weeks later against NC State were obviously positives to get out of there with the W. But Narduzzi's bunch gave up $170 on the ground to the then 25th ranked Seminoles in a 3-point win, and another 161 2 weeks later to the Wolfpack. That is not to say this defense is not a beyond solid one. That would be an absurdly incorrect statement for me to make, and I don't agree with it anyway. They're good. But given how the Irish like to run the ball with speed, power, and efficiency, and how the passing game has looked unstoppable at times, it is not in any way, shape, or form to think Notre Dame can't be successful pounding that rock, which hopefully would then open up the passing game. You're going to need that aerial attack to be there, but dedication to running the football, which may even include some more touches for Aeneas Williams, who showed well against Navy, 5 carries plus 70 yards, and he found the end zone, to burden the load, to soften the burden on Price and Love. That's going to be essentially Notre Dame getting past a confident Pitt bunch. Look, it could be done. It's no accident that Pitt's a top 3 unit in stopping the run. They've done their job, and we've seen that consistently. Good linebacking core. I'll start to break them down individually. These linebackers for Pitt can drop back in coverage. They can come up and get you on the point of attack. So they know what they're doing. They can play the game, and they're as big a reason as that front line in stopping the run and getting to the opposing quarterback. Not to mention a lot of the interceptions that Pitt has forced this season have come from their linebacking crew. So it's a good defense. But Notre Dame's dedication, even if it's slow early on against Pittsburgh, to the run is going to be essential in them winning this football game and then opening up that passing game for C.J. Carr. Speaking of which, again, for all the great things Pitt defense has done, specifically as we just discussed against the run, their secondary can at times leave some things to be desired. For C.J. Carr and his arsenal of pass catchers, opportunities to move the football down the field through the air should be there come Saturday afternoon at noon Eastern. 95th in the nation in passing yards per game given up. The third level of the Panthers defense can be exposed. Getting in and maintaining a rhythm with the likes of Malachi Fields, Jordan Faison, and Will Pauling, along with more involvement, I think, than we saw last week from tight end Eli Raritan. That could have been a product of what was happening and unfolding for Notre Dame offensively, just rolling last week against Navy. C.J. Carr knows what he has at his disposal. And we've seen this young man's confidence continue to climb with each passing week, even through some mistakes. You go back to the USC game, some throws you probably wanted to have back against BC in the early going, obviously against Miami. But the kid's been awesome. You can make the argument best freshman QB, total package included, and he's certainly growing into one of the more reliable and fast-learning QBs in all of America. So he knows what he's got on the outside there. He certainly knows what he has protecting him and behind him in that run game. So this is going to be, it's a challenge, but it's going to be something where if you want Notre Dame to be moving this ball down the football field through the air, I think there are going to be instances where this Pittsburgh secondary can be had. This is a Notre Dame offense that averages over 465 a game, more than 7 yards per play, which is third in the country in that stat. The Irish offense can move the football, and they can do it quickly and in large chunks. Add in the fact that this top 15 offense Notre Dame possesses racks up 272 of its 466 per game through the air, and you have the type of offense, as we've seen, that can carry a team good as Notre Dame's defense has been lately. It's a great opportunity once again for the Notre Dame D and the offense and that special teams unit to gel and work together. We saw it Saturday against Navy. Got to see it again this weekend. Now, you're going up against a defense is going to prioritize stopping the run given what exists in the Notre Dame backfield, and that area of the game has become Pitt's calling card. So C.J. Carr needs to make the most of opportunities he gets to connect with his stable of wideouts. Because again, for as talented as Pitt is up front and in their linebacking core, the third level can be had. Now, it'll be up to Carr and company to get that job done. Plenty to break down as we continue throughout the week in the build-up to Saturday afternoon. For now, I'll see you all tomorrow, where we'll take a look at some of those areas as we continue to build up to the game. Have a great rest of yours, and as always, go Irish.